Twitter.
Hey everybody!
We're here with the creator and showrunner of Dark Matter, Joe Mallozzi. Sorry it took us so long to go live. We were having some technical difficulties, but we seem to have ironed all of those out. So let's blow up the chat with questions, because I want to get lots of questions from the chat, and we'll start off with a few of our own.
Great.
So the main thing I'm interested in, and it'll be our first question, and we talked about this in our last interview, and I want to get kind of an update on it. You have a 5-year plan for Dark Matter.
I do.
You've just finished shooting season 3. You actually didn't just finish it. It's out next week. How different is it so far than your original vision?
To be honest with you, in terms of the big story arcs, it's really not that different at all. Season 1 was, designed to be very self-contained, very much about the mystery, the shipboard mystery, the discovery of who the characters were. It starts with the reveal that everyone's a villain, and it ends with, appropriately enough, all of them going to prison, being hauled off to prison. So that's the first, I guess, installment in the series. The second one, season 2, is them as criminals put away, deciding that they're gonna bust out, they're gonna take matters into their own hands, and they're essentially gonna go attempt to redeem themselves. And that's very much Six kind of, as he tries to kind of redeem himself on board the ship, he's kind of pushing them to redeem themselves. So season 2 is all about this quest for redemption, this quest for answers, then going out, this burgeoning possibility of a corporate war, and then their attempt at redemption failing spectacularly in the finale with the destruction of the 07 space station and presumably the commencement of corporate war. So season 3 is about, amidst this backdrop of this corporate war, it's what are characters setting out to do, this essentially this kind of push and pull between redemption, which is what they were headed towards in season 2, and just kind of falling back on their old ways or just leaving well enough alone. So essentially that is season 3, and then very much this idea that your worst enemy is your former friend in Ryo Ishida, formerly 4, who will be our big bad for season 3.
Okay, I'm so excited.
Yes, me too.
So Anna has a question.
All right. So last time we asked about the possibility of doing a musical episode, and I was at the panel, I think at New York City or New York Comic-Con. Mm-hmm. Melissa O'Neill said that basically every episode was a musical because they're always singing. And she even showed us a little video on her phone. So challenge accepted?
Eventually, whenever somebody says something like musical episode or more funny hats, I always say season 6, and then they always point out, well, you only have a 5-year plan. But I promise you, we were in the recording studio earlier in season 3 for a couple of two characters who do a duet actually in episode 4 of season 3. That's our I'm describing it as our Cuckoo Bananas episode. But there are actually 2 of those, really, in season 3, interestingly enough. But the first one is episode 4. Watch for the duet.
Okay, that's
all right,
good
all
enough.
Right,
I'll celebrate a duet. My gosh.
Yeah.
All right. Here's kind of a fun question. I wanted to do a fun question.
Great.
If you had to pick a Dark Matter character to be stranded on a deserted island with, who would it be and why? Oh, geez.
All right. Yeah.
Oh, hello. Sorry, stranded on an island. One character?
If you had to pick one Dark Matter character to be stranded on a desert island with, who would it be and why?
Oh, it would be the android, because basically she could get anything done. I mean, I certainly could not rely on 3, as much as, I like him. And, I mean, just in terms of being able to get stuff done, just in terms of strength and dexterity and just know-how, I think 2 and 4, 5 would be great, but I think Android definitely. I mean, she could build a ship if you know.
Gosh, Zoe Palmer's so
And
awesome.
and she's also demonstrated herself an excellent cook. So, I mean, I don't really know if 2 or 5 or 6 or 3 can cook. So I wouldn't even, you know, take a chance with them.
Okay.
Okay, so if 4 Rio is the big bad of season 3, can he be redeemed or is he lost for good?
Well, given, I guess you'll have to wait and see how things turn out in season 3 and how far he goes, because, you know, when we go into season 3, the crew assumes, you know, he set off the explosion on EO7 and presumably poisoned Nyx and stole the blink drive from them. So there's going to be a lot of bad feelings, and presumably the crew will strike back somehow, and then Rio will react. You know how these things get, and you know, one thing leads to another. So I think, to be honest with you, it would be very, very difficult for him to come back. But you never know. I mean, this show is constantly surprising, right? So I won't say no.
Okay. We have 2 questions from the chat. So Elminster 951 wants to know, how are the puppies doing?
They are great. Hang on, I want to get Suji right here. Here she is. She, you know, it's funny because you know, we adopted her in November, and she's become quite the Instagram star. She has like 7,000 followers on Instagram, almost like 7,500.
Oh my gosh.
And twice already, we've taken her for walks, and complete strangers have said, "Hey, is that Suji?" And you know, on Instagram, she looks very sweet. Like right here, she seems very sweet, but she's actually an incredibly cranky girl, but lovable nevertheless. And Lulu, my Frenchie, is great. They're getting old. We now have a stroller for them. So whenever we go to the farmer's market, my girlfriend kind of pushes them about. And I don't know. I'm thinking maybe cameo for one or both of them in season 4. We'll see. No promises.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, and Ion Trone says, Android cooking spin-off show? Hmm?
Maybe. Actually, the spin-off I want to do is Android and 5 flying around the galaxy solving crimes.
Ooh, that'd be really cool.
Like, yeah, like kind of like a procedural kind of. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would watch the shit out of that.
But, I just got a comment myself. Ivan Bartok, our on-set supervisor, said handlebar mustache. In fact, I'm just kind of scruffy, but I've got sort of like salt and pepper. But for some reason, more salt here and more pepper on the mustache. So it looks like I have a handlebar mustache, but in fact, no. It's just general scruff.
That's
I
amazing.
I want to need to dye the mustache to get it kind of gray like the rest of me.
Or you could do like the Hulk Hogan and have like the blonde mustache and the black beard.
That would be another way to go. Yeah. Advisement. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay. How much creative freedom do you have? Has there ever been something you wanted to denied by the network?
No, actually. You know, honestly, I have the luxury of pretty much telling the story I want to tell. The network has been very great. Jay Firestone, who's you know, president of Prodigy, the production company, has been really great as well, and supporting the creative vision that we, you know, have in mind for the show, the big arcs, the big developments. So you know, I can't really say there's ever been a time where basically we wanted to do something and someone threw up a roadblock. So so far so good. 3 seasons down, 2 more to go.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think you said when we interviewed you after season 2 that Nyx is definitely dead. I think you said that. So, but if she really is dead, and I'm not convinced she is, I think you're full of it. What effect will that have on the Raza crew? Who's it going to hit the hardest?
Well, if she is dead, I mean, it'll hit everyone fairly hard. But I think in terms of relationships, I think 2 was very close to Nyx, and I think the loss of any crew member would hit 2 hard because as the commander, she takes it upon herself to the safety of the crew.
Here's kind of a fun question. I wanted to do a fun question. If you had to pick a dark matter character.
This is weird. Yeah, but anyways, yes. So for some reason I'm repeating myself, or you're repeating yourself. Yeah, so definitely, I mean, I think it would probably be 2.
Okay. That actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense.
As a commander, basically, she's all about safeguarding the lives of the crew and protecting the crew. So any loss under her watch, she would take very hard.
And Allison Fortis.
Yes, we have a question from the chat. Allison Fortis. Any plans for the android to be human again this season? That was my favorite episode last year. Great transformation of the character. I agree.
Yeah.
Yes, in fact, actually, there are a couple of opportunities for Android to use the upgrade. Actually, this season will be a big episode for the Android. I mean, she gets to go undercover, but later this season, we actually find out what the deal is, what her connection to 2 is, how she came into Portia's possession, why she is unique among androids. So, a lot of interesting android backstory coming your way.
That's awesome.
Yes.
And if I can remember correctly, Android, like her stuff from season 1, all the reveals for her that came at the end of episodes, those were things that you had to add on. Is that correct?
Well, a lot of the scenes, well, not a lot of the scenes, certainly quite a few of the scenes, the Android scenes from season 1, for instance, her speaking in, the accent scene and scenes like that. A lot of the little fun scenes were scenes that were added because we were short, and we ended up building up, or really adding a lot more to the Android a lot quicker than we had originally planned. So in terms of a character who really took off in an unexpected way, she would be the one that really comes to mind. And also because, once you create the character in the script, and then the actor takes over, and Zoe does such a phenomenal job with the role that you just want to write for her, and the character just takes on really a life of its own, and she's of all the characters, her character has been like the biggest surprise for us creatively.
And Elminster in the chat says, just make sure 2 makes it through to the end.
No promises. No promises.
Okay, and which we just got another question from Ion Trone. Q&A for cord cutters. Does it help the show more if we watch with a season pass or through over-the-top TV subscriptions like Sling TV or YouTube TV or Direct TV Now? I have no idea. I can't answer that question.
I think, as sort of time goes on and technology improves, they're going to be taking it all into account. I mean, nowadays, people used to focus on the live numbers, and there was sort of live plus 3s, that's the live plus 7s, and people are looking at streaming numbers as well. I mean, the fact is, when we were on Stargate, I used to say that the numbers that our show would put up really were not indicative of our audience, just because sci-fi audiences tend to be younger, they tend to be more technologically savvy, so they tend to watch in sort of alternate ways. And I think slowly but surely, people are beginning to realize that and take that into account. So, nowadays there's so many factors that sort of really go into making up, decisions on pickups. So, I mean, any way you can watch it legally, certainly helps.
I thought we were getting an echo again there for a second. I thought I was like, am I hearing myself from the past again? From the alternate universes I said. One of the things we do for all the shows on the Sci-Fi Network, I think that we watch, we also buy the DVDs.
Yeah, we buy the series when it comes out.
Because it goes on the Netflix almost right away, pretty much.
Right.
But it might not be on Netflix forever. And in 15 years, I might want to watch these things again.
I think you will want to watch them again. I have a good feeling.
I've watched season 1 all the way through at least twice.
Awesome.
And I've watched season, because we just got season 2 on Blu-ray, just arrived not that long ago, and I think I've watched season 2 halfway through again. Right.
Yeah, I would say watch it live, buy it on iTunes. Get a Netflix subscription, get the DVDs. If they ever release a radio plays, get those too. Just so we want to be completists. You want to get everything, cover all the angles.
What about Laserdisc? Will it ever come out on Laserdisc?
Yeah. Well, you might have to wait a while for that.
Okay, I lost her place. Okay, yeah, here we go.
Okay. 2's backstory is one of my favorite arcs in the series. Will we get more of that?
In fact, yes. In the same episode in which we'll be learning all about the android's backstory, we'll be learning a lot more about 2's backstory. But along the way, we'll actually get glimpses into her so a lot more. In fact, in season 3, as in previous seasons, we're going to be finding out a lot more about all the characters. And quite a few surprises along the way.
Okay. Last season, when they returned from the alternate universe, somebody followed them. Are we going to get to find out who that was this season, or is that going to be put off till later?
Nope, we will find out. We will find out who followed them back from the alternate universe in their alternate marauder. I won't say when, but sooner or later.
I thought that might get pushed off to season 4. I thought you were going to make us wait on that one.
No. One of the things I didn't want to do, or one of the things I set out to do, was sort of create a series that would set up questions, but hopefully, pay them off in a reasonable amount of time, while also setting up other questions. So, at the beginning of the season, it was all about who these characters were, who wiped their memories, and ultimately, who was the mole in their midst. We answered those questions in season 1, and then, moved on to season 2. We wondered what the card did. In fact, I remember actually when the last time we did, or maybe 2 years ago, we did one of these Google Hangouts, and you asked me about the card, and, we found out in season 2 what the card does. And, we're going to find out about the android. We're going to find out about 2. We're going to find out about that black entity that spewed out of 3 in episode 9 of season 2. It's all, we have answers for you.
Wow. Okay. So all of these things that come up, like the black entity that came out of 3 and all this stuff, is that stuff that you've come up with in the moment and you're going to work the answer out during the creative process, or you've already planned this out?
No, everything has been planned. Like I said, we have a 5-year plan. Those black entities were kind of seeded in early, through sort of 2's backstory, the encounter with Rook, and then we're going to be building on, for instance, that particular story through season 3 and beyond. For instance, the whole Victor backstory, that's another sort of plan that we had. kind of we're calling the Rebel Android story, and that's something that's going to play out through season 3 as well, and possibly beyond. So nothing happens by accident. Everything's going according to plan.
Okay, and I'm through like our pre-planned questions. So guys, blow up the chat with questions for Joe.
Questions in the chat, please.
While we have him. So right now I'm just coming up with stuff off the top of my head, and one of them is, do you have plans to visit that alternate reality again, or is that the last time we're actually going to go there? We're going to get characters from there, which you just mentioned, but are we going to get? Are we as an audience going to get to go back? Well,
I always love alternate reality storylines just because it's the classic road not taken. What would have happened if things had happened a different way? And we get the answer. We see 6 get killed by 2. 5's not on board. Ryo Ishida essentially, 4 essentially, or Ryo Ishida really retakes his throne. Is that your chat?
Yes.
That's a big Dark Matter fan, right?
She found a washcloth somewhere.
Yeah, and she's just playing with it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I mean, it's yeah. So I mean, just looking ahead to sort of this season, like I said, in one of the things that I wanted to do, like in season 2, one of the things I wanted to do was get 3 and 5 together in a story, because I realized that, whenever they had their scenes together, it would be great, but we never really had a story with them kind of thrown together. So I wrote that story, episode 11, where they're on the run together, and that was a lot of fun. This year I wanted to do time travel rather than alternate universe. So basically we do not 1, but 2 time travel episodes this season. And they both essentially happen to be sort of more off the wall episodes. There's episode 4, which I already mentioned, but there's episode 9 that was supposed to be a totally different story, but because of actor availability, we had to kind of turf that story, and I had to sort of come up with a story on the fly. And I describe this episode as sort of a Back to the Future meets Stranger Things.
Cool.
And
nice.
it has our characters sort of going undercover in a kind of a contemporary suburban environment, with, of course, our android leading the way. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Alex 30425. I'm going to paraphrase this question because I'm not sure in your universe humans are the only intelligent life in the galaxy. So in your universe, are humans the only intelligent life in the galaxy?
In our universe, from what we have seen so far, it would appear so. Although maybe something will happen in season 3 that will revise your thinking on the subject.
I guess kind of what I thought that the answer would be to that.
Yeah.
Allison has a question.
Yes, Allison Fortis has a question. Can we assume one story is entirely completed at this point, or will it figure in if the corporations go to war?
I'm going to say the story is incomplete, and there's a bit more to tell in that particular story.
Okay.
But I won't say it would necessarily figure into the corporate war, but there's a concluding chapter that is yet to be told.
Okay. Ion Trone says, will season 3 make us cry?
Cry with joy, tears of joy, maybe. Season 2 is pretty dark, I think. Season 3, I mean, there were moments of darkness, but I think there are, like those 2 episodes I mentioned, there are moments that are a lot of fun. I mean, basically we have 2 very funny episodes, but also, I mean, in terms of making you cry, there are some very, I guess, touching character moments. As sort of this series progresses, these, 6, 7 disparate individuals slowly kind of come together to form sort of a family of sorts. And, you know, I think there were some very sweet moments, especially in episode 10. The android has a number of really nice moments with her fellow crew members that you can look forward to. If you're a fan of the android, you know, so it's safe to say you will enjoy season 3.
Okay. I just had a question, then I started laughing at a question in the chat. It threw me off. So we'll start there and see if I can remember what I was going to ask. Hey, kitty cameo. Elminster says, "Is 5 an alien?"
You know, I never say I want to say yes or no because I don't want to shut the door on anything, but I'm going to say no for that. 5 is definitely not an alien. So put your minds in.
Okay. Sorry. I was like, yeah, I remember my question. So, as regarding seasons 1 and 2, because I don't want to get any big spoilers for season 3. I'm wondering, like, if as you're writing, have you ever like fanboyed out to yourself, like, oh man, this is gonna be awesome, just as you're writing, and just kind of do a fist bump to yourself?
Yeah, I mean, when you're in the room and you come up with the ideas, you kind of imagine. I mean, really, it comes down to the actors. Like, whenever I write something, I'm like, oh, you know, Anthony will nail this, or Melissa's going to be, you know, amazing in this scene, just because you're aware of what they can do and how good they are. So, I mean, it's less for me, this is amazing on the page, and more sort of like, this is going to be amazing when, you know, Bruce McDonald directs it, or John Stead choreographs this fight sequence, or, you know, Alex Malari Jr., you know, kills this scene, you know, because I just know I have such confidence in the ability of the people who work on the show to deliver that, you know, yeah, I guess in a way, you know, I do get excited about stuff like that.
So then that bears a follow-up question. Does like your vision of the way, say, Melissa will do a certain line, deliver a certain line, does that do you find yourself writing for a certain character a certain way? She's like, oh, I want to hear Melissa say this.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you know, one of the many things that's great about the show is just sort of what all the different people involved in it bring. And, you know, Melissa O'Neill and Alex Malari Jr., two of the things that they particularly bring are their ability to do fight sequences. And of course they have stunt doubles for like the really, really crazy stuff, but you'd be amazed by how much of the stunts, their own stunts, they do. And one of the things, you know, in my mind, since we set up Ryo Ishida as the big bad, and, you know, he's the leader of Zyron, he's the guy who's got the blink drive and, you know, is kind of the former friend turned enemy. And Melissa is the commander of the ship. And, you know, she's basically going to be gunning for him. You know, they're both formidable physical individuals, and I, you know, wanted to see an episode where they throw down and just go at it. And you know, when I remember in the script, it was a script written by Lauren Bancroft Wilson, who's our VFX supervisor. But you know, when it came to the fight sequence, I just kind of did kind of a little revision, tweaked it, and you know, I just wrote, "They fight, it's glorious," and just left it to John Stead, our stunt coordinator, to come up with a kick-ass fight sequence, and he did, and it's glorious.
They fight, it's glorious.
Yeah. So since they do so many of their own stunts and so much of their own fight scenes and stuff, has there been anything that like somebody's, like the insurance guy has come and said, no, the actor can't do that, you have to get a double?
No. One of the things, John Stead, our stunt coordinator, who's also directed a bunch of my favorite episodes, he's all about the safety, the actor's safety. I remember actually there was one guest star who came on our show, and had done a bunch of stunts. And they were like, well, let me do I want to do my stunts. And John was like, well, you know, I trust you to be able to do your stunts, but, you know, I also worry about, you know, the person you're going to be doing the choreograph with, if you'll be able to stop short in time. But just, you know, he's all about the safety of the actors, and he's always very, very careful. So I mean, you know, the stunt sequences are amazing, and Melissa and Alex, and we had one fantastic guest star, Michael Reventar, who appears in episode 4. Who did a bunch of his own stunts as well, and you know, you'd be amazed by what they can do. But John is always cognizant of the physical limitations and sort of the safety parameters for each fight sequence. So you know, there's never any concern about anybody getting, you know, actually hurt.
Okay, we got another question from the chat. This is actually pretty interesting. What is the most difficult or challenging aspect of making, creating, writing a television show?
I think the most daunting aspect, to be honest with you, is coming up in about a little over a week. We convene the writer's room for season 4. We haven't received a 4-season pickup, but we're, you know, confident, and you know, we want to get a head start, as we do every year. So we're going to be convening, and you know, I know, you know, as I said, sort of I have the game plan. I know what I want to do for the 4th season. I know how it will begin. I know how it'll end. I know sort of the character arcs. I know a number of the stories, but you know, we need to get in the writer's room and come up with the details. We need the steps. We need to know how to get there. And you know, it's like, you know, doing the tightrope walk without a net. I mean, you basically got 3 weeks to come up with 13 essentially outlines for the season, and whatever you don't get in the room, you've got to figure out later on down the road. And I would always prefer to have as many stories broken as possible. When we, you know, just because once we get into production, you know, it's like a machine. It starts eating up scripts, and it just becomes so hard to really take the time out to sit down and write and figure stuff out. So, you know, in June 12th, it's going to be co-creator Paul Mully, co-executive producer Ivan Bartok, co-producer Alison Hepburn, and Carl Binder, who's a former Stargate executive producer. The 5 of us are going to convene, and we're going to beat out some stories. And I'm, to be honest with you, a little anxious about it. Keeps me up at night trying to, you know, come up with ideas. And but it's, you know, it's going to be fun, I'm sure. And we're going to have a lot of great ideas and a lot of fantastic lunches. No doubt the lunches are going to be stellar.
So the names you just listed off, who you're going to be working with writing, yeah. There was, I think it was what, 4 people, including you?
Yeah.
So
yeah, Paul Mully's yeah.
So with 4 minds all going at it, do you guys ever have like major disagreements on a direction or anything like that?
When it comes to major disagreements, it's usually between Paul and I. Paul is a co-creator, and then it goes back to like Stargate as well, because we were longtime writing partners. And now, even though we write separately, I mean, we created the show together. I tend to be more the idea guy, and he tends to be more the logic guy. And you know, like I said, I know where I want to end up, but I need to take those logical steps to get there. And sometimes he will throw up a roadblock and say, that doesn't make sense. We can't do that. And so, you know, sometimes we will go, you know, head to head, and you know, it's always nice to have other people in the room to be able to say, well, you know, let's find a compromise. In season 1, that person was Martin Garrow. Martin, who worked with us on Stargate, who's now the showrunner of a show called Blind Spot that he created. He was always very good at basically saying, okay, we can save Joe's idea by addressing Paul's concern and sort of find a way to make the idea work. So that's there'll always be disagreements in the room. You just got to find a way to sort of work around them.
I think when, at least for me, like when I picture writing the show, I picture them like alone in the room, just typing away. And sometimes you got to like, it's interesting to find out that, there's 4, 6, 8, 10 people in a writing room arguing about the story. And that's fascinating.
Yeah, every season we start off, we'll always do the writer's room, and then we all go off, we write our scripts. When we get into production, though, Ivan is our on-set producer, so he's basically busy being on set. I'm busy prepping episodes, and part of prep requires me to do rewrites. And so that's, at that point, the writer's room is no more. I know a lot of productions actually keep their writer's room throughout the production, but we run a fairly tight ship. So once we get into production, I'm essentially the writer's room when it comes to the rewrites. So that's why, like I said, I'd really like to try to get as much as possible, and I rely on the writer's room to get as much done as we can in those 3 weeks. But we'll see. We'll talk in a month from now, and I'll let you know how happy I am.
Okay, so question from the chat from 951. How's Carl fitting in?
I don't know. Carl has always been rather awkward, so I don't really hold that much hope for him fitting in. But he is an excellent writer, and a funny guy. So he's going to be a lot of fun to have in the room. We actually start the room June 12th, so I still have sort of a week of R&R, and hopefully trying to come up with some ideas before I actually find out how Carl's going to work out. I hope he works out. I think he will, but you never know.
Kate Cummings also in the chat, who is actually in the Dark Matter Facebook fan group. I recognize that name. She wants to know how you got into writing. Where did you get your start? How you broke into the business, and showrunning. So, what was your first job as a showrunner as well?
I got into the business actually, as when writers always ask me how to break into the business, I always suggest they actually look to animation, because that's where I got my start. Actually, I started freelancing for animation and worked my way up to, as a story editor, and I started to develop stuff for animation, write for animation, and then eventually crossed over into live action teen sitcom. I did a show called Student Bodies, which is kind of set in a high school, and that was a lot of fun. And then from that, we went to and did like a couple of half hours, and then eventually ended up on Stargate. And one of the great things about Stargate was very much like Dark Matter, is it really promoted from within. And if you wanted to learn, you could always have the opportunity to learn. And Brad Wright, who's doing a show called Travelers now, and Robert Cooper, who's doing a show called Dirk Gently, they were the showrunners at the time, and they welcomed Paul and I on board, and we wrote and we learned from them editing and producing, and we worked our way up. We started as co-producers and essentially worked our way up to showrunners, and in the end, seasons 4 and 5 of Atlantis, we were showrunners on that show, and we owe it all to really Brad and Robert, and it's something that I've kind of sought to do on Dark Matter. It's very much, it feels like a family, like very much like Stargate was. One of the, I do a blog where basically I write about, my experience on the production. One of the blog posts a couple of months ago, maybe weeks ago, was about when guest stars come on the show, they talk about how much, how relaxed it is, how much like a family it is. And, if you work in the business long enough, you realize that that's not really the norm. And I cited a bunch of shows that shot around Toronto, like a Murdoch Mysteries, that people cited as examples of great working environments. And, I gave them a shout out. And, it's just nice to hear about, that there are places where people can go and feel, happy coming into work, rather than basically, going in thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to put in a 16-hour day, or, I'm not going to have a weekend. That's not us. And, hopefully it will never be us.
Hey, we got another question from the chat, and unless anybody else in the chat wants a question, this will be the last one. So if you want to have a question answered, blow up the chat so we can get to them, because it's getting close to 9 o'clock, and I don't want to keep Joe here all night. That would be rude. So Ion Tron says, any plans, which we asked this question last year, actually, any plans now for a Killjoys crossover or a Christmas special, since they're becoming more popular these days?
I would say no immediate plans. I mean, I love Killjoys. I think it's a great show. I love Michelle Labretta, who's the creator. I think our shows have similarities that would make it actually quite easy to do a crossover. As I mentioned, I think last year, the fact that they're bounty hunters and we're wanted criminals, makes it pretty obvious. But there are, realistically, there are issues that make it very difficult to actually do a crossover. So no crossover in season 3, but who knows what the future holds.
Okay, I don't see any more questions in the chat. So unless the last second one comes up, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. We'll give it a couple of seconds in case somebody's a slow typer or anything like that. Do you have any final questions? Anything you're curious about?
No, I think we covered.
You're just going to be pleasantly surprised next Friday night, 8 p.m. Next Friday night, Sci-Fi.
Yes.
Build up to the premiere.
Yes. Oh, then, by the way, while we've got all these people here, I just interrupted Joe incredibly rudely. God, what a terrible.
No, go ahead. It's your show. It's your show. I'm just a guest.
We do this thing now called a live virtual watch party, and we're going to be doing that with all of the Sci-Fi Friday shows this year.
Yes, so very long live watch with us Friday nights.
Once all of them come back, we're going to have Killjoys, Dark Matter, and Winona Earp back to back to back. So it's going to be 3 hours.
I can watch you guys watch the show? Excellent. I want to see your reaction to a couple of things. I look forward to it.
It's live reaction videos are incredibly popular, but they're also a giant pain in the butt to edit. So I figured, well, what if we just live stream the whole thing during it?
Yeah, and then we don't have to edit it.
Great idea. I look forward to watching you guys then.
It should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. All
right. So I don't see any other questions in the chat, but I did come up with a last second one. So in case anybody's typing very slowly. I know you have to build like new sets every season for like certain new environments, that kind of stuff. How long, like for instance, when you first built the Raza, how long did that take?
First of all, Ian Brock is our production designer, and he is brilliant. I think every year, him and his team, the art department, have just gotten better and better. In season 3, you'll see his sets are amazing, especially in season episode 2. We visited an Ashita research facility that is incredible. But in terms of the Raza, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think it took at least, say, like 2.5 months to build.
Wow.
Well, maybe closer to 3. Yeah.
What's the square footage on that? Do you know offhand?
You know what? Offhand, I don't know. But people are always surprised by how economical the set is. It looks like a vast set when you watch the show, but when you actually walk the set, it's quite an efficient an efficiently built set, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah. But next time when you guys are in Toronto, let me know and I'll take you on a tour.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. That would be incredible.
And you guys can sort of measure the set.
Yeah. I don't see any more questions in the chat, so we will let you go. Thank you, Joe.
Okay.
so
Yes,
much
thank
for
you
watching.
so much.
This was amazing.
Thank you.
It's always just such a joy to talk to you, and you're probably the most receptive, interactive showrunner celebrity probably ever.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to support the show as always. I mean, you know, we're coming back for season 3 because of, you know, you guys and the fans. And, you know, if I can take the time to help you guys do your job, then by all means. Sorry, Lou's coming in here.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, puppy.
Also, for anybody in the chat who doesn't know, there is going to be a Dark Matter after show. That is correct, right?
Yes. After Dark, internationally, it will air immediately following the episode. And in North America, Space Channel and Sci-Fi should basically be on their website immediately following the episode. So there'll be interviews with cast members and the occasional producer as well. But I just actually watched the first 2 episodes, and they're a lot of fun. Hosted by Zoe Palmer.
Ooh, very cool.
Very
Yeah.
cool. So everybody, be sure to check that out. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to watch
It'll be
it. But
great.
you know what? Don't skip our videos.
No, you want to get the whole picture. You want to get the whole picture.
All right. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in. Joe, thanks for joining us. We will see you guys later on, hopefully with our Dark Matter.
Our Doctor Who.
Our Doctor Who review later on tonight.
Yeah.
Cool, looking forward to that.
Bye.
Yeah.